All right, this communication, these comments are to discuss voter equity and transparency in the recent petition phase of the 2022 campaign. In the first phase of the campaign process, the questionable level of transparency, purposely or not, in the petition process suggested an appearance of voter suppression in a Democratic-leaning state, in which is no different than the work engaged in by the Republicans around the country. This, while the Democratic Party has given the impression that they're seeking to make the John Lewis bill into law to address Republican voter suppression successes that have been taking place around the country. First, or initially, there were grumblings and suggestions among those seeking to get on the ballot to run for council at large in particular, that they should have submitted all petitions on March the 4th, 2022. There was absolutely no mention of this date in the checklist provided with the petitions on January 3rd, 2022. If this was the case, it should have been indicated on the checklist. If an individual had not run before, understandably, they would not have known that 3/7/2022 was effectively the grace date. Further, there's nothing in the law that prevents the earlier distribution of petitions to affect equity and transparency in the initial stage of the campaign promise. This would have impacted the timeline associated with the process of petition qualifications and amendment. The law provides that petitions be distributed on or before 64 days prior to the election. They can be distributed before that time. That's important because there's no published legend explaining the abbreviations and codes noted on disqualified petitions regarding the voter registration status of individuals who signed a petition. The potential candidate does not have an opportunity, nor is there time to observe and question while the municipal clerk staff is engaged in manual review process to determine qualification status of the candidate's petitions. If the petitions were provided earlier than January 3rd, there could be time for observations to take place and more time to amend and correct any disqualifying petitions. This would have created the opportunity for a competitive council at large election that would provide voters with a real choice. My own personal experience is on Tuesday, March 8th, 2022 at 5:30 p.m. or 5 o'clock, I received an email indicating that I submitted 2,000 petitions, 1,503 were qualified, and 141 required to qualify to be placed on the ballot to run for council at large. I will tell you, when I walked out, I had 85 petitions, and I ended up with 45 petitions short of getting on the ballot. During several email exchanges that evening, I requested a meeting with the Office of Municipal Clerk's Office immediately for the following Wednesday, March 9th, to review all disqualified petitions. I reported at 10 o'clock the next morning. Based on the provided checklist, the amended petitions were due the next day before 4 o'clock. During the introductory conversations before the review, there were several nuances to the process offered by staff, which I suggested in the spirit of transparency and equity be included in the checklist to ensure transparency in the process. Further, I suggested that the information be posted on the doors of the clerk's office and that there be an instructional DVD for everybody. That would mean everybody would start from the same position and have the same information. Later, I was provided with 371 petitions disqualified allegedly due to problems with voter registration status. There were notes and codes on the petition, but no published legend available or offered to me to determine what the codes meant. Additionally, no published criteria for determining what is meant by disqualification. Candidates should be advised of why a petition was disqualified so that before they can seek to amend the petitions. Further, when we were revisiting individuals whose petitions were disqualified so that we could register them on the spot, several people expressed surprise since they had voted in the governor's election last year. And if these events are not just a matter of a lack of transparency, but rather voter suppression, it's extremely disappointing to me as a student of Newark's history, a lifelong resident of the city, and a political scientist. Why? There were Black and Puerto Rican young people who joined forces to lead the effort to address oppression against them by Mayor Adonisio's administration in the 1960s against Black and Puerto Rican people in the city of Newark. Now the perception is that there are Black and Puerto Rican elected officials who first, for their own personal gain and profit, consider the position elected officials and politicians as a career move and not service to the public. Second, they're considered the face of oppression against their own people. Thank you.
Elaine Aquil, 163 Quitman Street. Good afternoon. I'm here, excuse me, I'm here this afternoon to bring attention to everyone here in this chamber and those watching at home. Newark has a democratic problem with inclusion and equity in the political process. I know this because when I and my teammates, Professor Linda Carter and retired Sheriff's Officer Blanca Lopez, attempted to have the qualified number of petitions signed, 1,664, to get on the ballot to compete, we were met with several kinds of dirty and underhanded tactics. Registered voters who either personally or have relatives that work for the Democratic machine, City of Newark, Newark Housing Authority, Newark Parking Authority, were afraid to sign our petitions because we were not machine candidates. I know this because they said it to me. My own family members and friends that I've known for years felt the same way. I would never want to cause anyone to lose their job or their business, but this was told to me time and time again. Can't sign your petition, Doc. Know you, love you, but I can't do it. I found it to be appalling and sad that voter suppression is alive and well in the city of Newark, that folks are intimidated, threatened, and retaliated against if they're allowed to practice their civil and constitutional right to sign any and everybody's petition. We can't call ourselves Democrats and practice voter suppression. The only difference in what we experience, excuse me, and what's being done in Georgia, Michigan, Florida, and Arizona is that white Republicans have made it lawful. And here in Newark, it's done under the radar and on the down low. Because it's law doesn't make it right, and because it's always been done that way doesn't make it right. Chattel slavery was law. That certainly wasn't right. We wanted to run because in the city of Newark, 52% of the voter base are women. And there's only one woman sitting on that council. And I did sign your petition, by the way, Councilwoman McIver. That has to change so that my granddaughters and other young girls and women can see a council that looks more like the constituents that live in this city. Because they can only achieve, they can only be what they see. And if they only see one, they're never going to think that they're going to have the opportunity to sit there as well. And so in closing, I just want to read this quote from one of my favorite motivational speakers, Les Brown, and it's titled, "Is It Right?" Cowardice asks the question, is it safe? Expediency asks the question, is it political? Vanity asks the question, is it popular? But conscience asks the question, is it right? There are times when you must take a stand that is neither safe, political, nor popular, but you must do it because it's right. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Blanca Kookie Lopez. I'm a retired Essex County Sheriff's Officer. I'm the daughter of late and very great to me, Raul Lopez, who was instrumental in the advancement of Hispanics in the city of Newark, including some of the people that are on the council here today. I'd like to start off by saying to Monica MacGyver, I am very proud to see a woman on this council, and more so proud to see a woman that's doing what she's supposed to do to the best of her abilities, and I want to thank you for that. I'm here today because of my experience, and I hate to go back to what I've gone through, but, and I hate reiterating an issue that I went through. I ran for president of the Puerto Rican Day Parade, which everyone here knows, and I experienced something that I was very disappointed in, very disappointed. I ran for the president of the Puerto Rican Day Parade, which is a nonprofit organization and an organization that it's supposed to be about pride and pride in your heritage and who you are. It's not supposed to be a war. It became a war. The elected officials went after me with a vengeance. They supported the other candidate. They gave her money for her election. They took her to senior buildings when it wasn't supposed to even be. During COVID, people coming into senior buildings, they had her flyers and bags that they handed out with turkeys. Everything that shouldn't have been done was done. And I was so disappointed and so disgusted. And I even tried to speak. And I tried to sit down and say, like, what is going on here? This isn't something that's a war. This is something that I would have gladly conceded to her if she won by her own merits, not because she had the political machine behind her. And the political machine shouldn't have been involved. And I was disgusted by that. And because of that, I realized this is why we have the issues that we have in the city of Newark. Anybody who wants to run for a position, any position, no matter what walk of life you are, no matter how much money you have or you don't have, no matter how much education you don't have, you have the right to exercise the chance to run for a position. And I felt really disrespected, and I felt that people took advantage of their position. It was an abuse of power, and it was an injustice. And it was ugly at the end of the day, because the candidate that ran against me, she and I were friends. We were actually working together. And what happened was these people went one by one to everybody on my team and offered them anything or whatever they wanted to go against me. And one person gave in. One person gave in, and she went against me. So she didn't beat me. The political machine beat me. And then they got offended when somebody made a comment about it. You got offended. How could you get offended when this is what you were doing and you know they were doing it? And everybody on the team knew what it was doing. People that were my friends stopped talking to me. People that were working for these people were afraid to support me. They were afraid to come out. My job, my kid's job. This is disgusting that you use your power in this way to manipulate people in the city of Newark. People came after me. People attacked a senior woman that was getting petitions for me. And then on the day that I came to bring in my petitions, I was so nervous, and I worked for something. I had never done something like this before in my life. I decided to get petitions to run for council at large. It was something that I was so nervous about, and I wanted so badly to do the right thing that I was meticulous about getting these petitions. When I came in on that day, I reached this floor at 4 p.m. I saw the woman stamping all the other candidates. I got to the door, and I got there just in time, but I waited at the door because there was a sign that said, because of COVID, you cannot walk into this office. And Dr. Aquil was there with her son. So I waited at the door. When I walked in, Mr. Ken Lewis, who I don't know from a can of paint, was waiting for me and said by name, "I'm sorry, Ms. Lopez, but you are 3 minutes late. We will not accept your petitions." At the end of the day, Mr. Lewis knows for a fact, because I found out afterwards, there is a 5 to 10 minute window within the United States, wherever, for these petitions to be turned in. Mr. Lewis knows this. He should know it better than me. But at the end of the day, I appealed to him. His response was no. I walked away and I sat outside and I had to think to myself, can I keep putting my supporters through this? When we were getting petitions, we were told straight up, I can't sign for petitions for you. I was told I can. Cook, I'm sorry. I want to support you, but I can't. They will come after me. People with businesses were afraid that they were going to have inspectors coming after them. So at the end of the day, this is where I stood. I was not against anybody. I'm not here to go against anybody. When you come into that position, I'm here to support you because you are elected officials. And if you need me, you have my phone number. You have my phone number. You don't call me. Okay, so at the end of the day, I'm not here to go against you, but I do have a right to exercise the opportunity to write for a position if I want to, and I shouldn't be come after and attacked. And that's all I have to say. Thank you, and that's what I'm here.
Thank you.
Next speaker.